I found myself telling myself over and over, like, this feels crazy. What am I doing? When you don't have that definition of like, I am a marketing professional, and suddenly you're like, who am I? And this was my way of just kind of stepping back and thinking like, how do I want this to go and what's going to work for our family?
Are you at a crossroads in your career or in life? Well, don't worry, because life's next chapter is waiting. This is the Second Act Success podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Russell. I'm a television producer, turned boy mom, turned business owner, podcaster, and career coach. If you are looking to start a new career or begin a fresh chapter in life, then get ready to be inspired with stories of women who have done just that. We will share advice and offer steps you can take to help figure out what your true calling in life really is. It is time to shine, so let's turn the page and get started. Welcome to Second Act Success. Hey there, my friend. Today, my guest is Farrell O'Rourke. She is a mom of 3, a runner, and an aspiring drummer. Farrell spent 15 years in finance, received her MBA in marketing, and one day she realized she needed a change. Farrell launched her own brand of activewear hats out of a need that she discovered while out for a morning jog. Let's dive in. Farrell, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you for having me.
So you have a lot of things going on. You left your job about a year ago. You decided to open your own business about 6 months ago, and now your business is launching this summer. Take me back to the beginning and walk me through how your journey of your career has kind of evolved.
Sure. I graduated college back in 2006, and I basically went more or less from there to working at a large financial services firm that my dad was actually working at. I started in like an analytics group, and I learned so much from that experience. I have zero regrets whatsoever. Met some great people, but I think a couple years into it, I was thinking, maybe analytics isn't for me. I was not a math, I was an English major. So I thought, maybe I want to transition into a marketing role or communication, something like that. So I went back to business school. I got an MBA in marketing, and I kind of had all these ideas of, now, I'm going to get a totally different job somewhere else and go a different direction. But I took the safe route. I actually ended up right back at the company I was at before in the marketing department. But, it wasn't kind of the launching point or the leap I was kind of thinking I might be taking from a career standpoint. It worked out okay. I got, marketing experience in that new role. And I also, I had the stability I needed to kind of, have my 3 kids. So I was kind of focusing on that stage of my life as well. After I went back to work after maternity leave with my 3rd child, it was the, peak or height of the pandemic. And I just kind of found myself thinking like, oh my gosh, is this it? Like I had hit a career point where in my head, I had been there for 15 years. And I was kind of like, this is probably where I'm going to be for the next 15 years if I let it. I thought back to an experience I had in business school. I interned at a boutique co-working space, which really inspired me in an entrepreneurial sense, like a pipe dream. This is something I'd love to do one day kind of thing. But, again, I went back to that stability and those benefits and the cushion and everything that comes with like a large firm. So I didn't do anything for a year, talked to my husband about it, talked to my whole family about it. And then finally, I just did it. It was like the beginning of a new year after the holidays, and I left my job and I actually took up the drums. I kind of didn't know what to do with myself. We still had daycare all day, every day that we had paid for already. So I just went in the basement and like banged away on this drum kit we had. I took a couple lessons and I got okay, but I was like, what am I doing down here? And my husband actually works, his home office is right above the basement where the drums are. And
oh no.
What is going on up there? But it was super liberating for me and just gave me that confidence that like, I can learn something new, and just kind of doing something totally different felt really good.
Where did the drums come from? Have you always been musical?
Never. I've never played an instrument in my entire life. I've always kind of wanted to, but like that's weird, especially for like a mom. Like,
I love it though.
But
Amazing.
it was so much fun. It's like one of those things I would encourage to anyone, like, just try it, right? So I did that. I ran a bunch. I'm a runner, nothing crazy, but I was running one day and it was like super sunny out. And I'm like, why are there no running hats that are like comfortable and, don't slip down and don't make you too hot? And so I went home and I pulled out my sewing machine and I started making the first prototype of the company. I ended up launching Farrell Co, which sells essentially hats, activewear hats or jogging hats. It's an interesting journey, but I certainly want part of my journey, the space I'm in right now, to help others kind of push themselves like to new limits and to experiment with new passions and take those leaps, so to speak.
Right, because you found yourself in this position where you knew you couldn't do the 9 to 5. You just leapt without really knowing where you were going, which is the scary part that I think a lot of us face is we know we are not happy right now, but leaping before we have something stable is scary. What just made you decide that one day that you were going to give your notice?
I had the support of my husband, which is, huge. We have 3 kids, and I also had just kind of like maxed out. My husband like works crazy hours. I was working long hours, and it was just kind of like, we both agreed that something had to give. I felt lucky that he was, willing to support me in that way. But, I even think, looking back, experimenting with different passions, pulling out that sewing machine at night or picking up that instrument, whatever it is, like at night or in the morning or on the weekends, and just like playing around with stuff, seeing where it goes.
That time you had was your time to experiment and research and clear your head for the next chapter, really.
Totally. I read on one blog somewhere that calls it like a career pause, right? So you just almost like taking the space that you need to kind of just like self reflect and, what do I want this next chapter to look like? What are some goals I want to set for myself? Things like that.
It's so important to take that time too, because when you're working, especially as a working mom, you're working all day long. When you get home, the kids are there, you're dealing with the kids, and then it's bedtime. I know that routine. We all know it so well. And I think the fact that you had the kids in daycare during that time kind of worked to your advantage. You had that extra time for yourself, which is really rare.
Yeah. Again, I was really lucky with that. But what I had to get over a little bit was like, I found myself telling myself over and over, like, this feels crazy. Like, what am I doing? When you don't have that definition of like, I am a marketing professional, and suddenly you're like, who am I? You suddenly think, well, I guess I should have all 3 kids home with me because now that's going to be my definition. So you sort of have to just, I don't know. This was my way of just kind of stepping back and thinking like, how do I want this to go and what's going to work for our family?
I admire you for taking that time for you because you easily could have pulled them from daycare and taken on that stay-at-home mom role, which would have been fine, but you wouldn't have had the time for yourself. So that's really admirable that you did that and you took that time. I feel like we all need that. We all want that, but it's hard to find. You could have easily just plopped yourself on the couch and relaxed and been like, I've been working for 15 years. Now I can take a break, but you didn't. You pulled out the drums. You pulled out the sewing machine. You went running. Sitting behind the computer and just Googling and searching can only get you so far. But you actually doing activities that made your mind start thinking. If you weren't on that run that day, who knows if you would have thought about the need for athletic activewear hats.
Yeah, no, it definitely helped. It's kind of like one thing leads to another in that sense. But at the same time, I was applying to like some freelancing jobs and I was on those websites, like websites for moms helping you get,
Yeah.
jobs that work for you. So I was doing all that, but I found myself, feeling crazy sitting there all day typing resumes. So like spicing up your day with some other things like definitely helped. And then kind of like I said, one thing leads to another and you're suddenly in this totally different spot and you're like, woo, that worked out somehow.
Yes. It is kind of like, wait, is this supposed to be happening now? But I love it. So you went from finance to business school into the marketing world. And then you're running and you're having this idea about hats. Talk to me about that process. How did you know that you could make this into a business?
So I had no sewing experience other than like home ec, which I
Right.
don't even know if they do that anymore. I played around with a sewing machine a little bit, here and there, like growing up after that. Yeah, when I was running, I was just like, I wish there was something that, provided like sun protection, but that was lightweight and was kind of like sunglasses, but not. I like tossed the idea out to my husband and he humored me a little bit. And then I have like probably 50 iterations from the first prototype I made till the end. It's funny when he listened to me on the drums for like 6 months, and then he sees me like working away for hours on the sewing machine with all these like hat samples around. I mean, it looked like a like, what is going on? I was in the flow, so to speak, just energized by doing something different. It was just really fun to do something like that, especially after, a 9 to 5 desk job that I had for so long.
Right. Working on your own hands-on project, something that,
Hmm.
yeah, is all yours. When did you realize, hey, I created something. This is actually working?
So I would make myself and my husband like wear them out in public, which I laugh about looking back, and he was a really good sport. My litmus test was kind of like what works for me, because I was designing this for a need that I found. When I finally found like I hit that point, I was like, what do I do next? I have zero experience in fashion. I do have business experience, but how do I take that leap, or where do I go next with this idea? And so I actually joined a platform called Factory 45. It's kind of like a crash course in fashion. It's an online business course, but it takes you through every single step of the way from, putting a spec sheet together, reaching out to pattern makers, finding manufacturers, starting an LLC. I mean, everything's soup to nuts. So I followed that course step by step. And I will say, even more valuable than the databases and the contacts and everything was the network I got from that. There is a Facebook group of other entrepreneurs looking to do similar stuff as you, and everybody is so supportive. If you ever have a question, you put it out on the Facebook group and you get a whole slew of answers. You have a one-on-one mentor who you can text at any time if you have a question about taxes or anything. There's mentors for that. So I will say to anybody else looking to do something similar, finding your network. Maybe it's a co-working space. Renata from
Mm-hmm.
Foodum, you did an earlier podcast episode with her. She was awesome. I loved hearing her story, but she was saying too, like, find a network. And for her, it was co-working space. And I get that because I have experience there too. But, you know, who are your people that are going to make you feel less alone,
Yes.
basically?
Yeah.
All the questions that you have every single day that could make you stop, you realize like everyone else is going through those same questions too and having those same doubts, and it just gives you, that confidence, and again that sense of like not being alone.
Absolutely. And yeah, Renata in episode 10 did share that the co-working spaces worked so well for her. I think she also joined like an accelerator program, kind of, it sounds like yours. And I think you're absolutely right, because I have joined those kind of programs in the past as well. I joined one before launching my podcast, and I'm actually doing another one now that's helping me with my course that will be out in the fall. It's just like you said, just being able to bounce ideas, have people that are at the same speed as you, because you can't ask those questions to your husband and your friends. It's not like when we worked in an office job where you can go to the next cubicle and ask somebody some
Right.
advice. Just having that community, you can learn so much with your program. You can probably go back to different sections and do it again if you need a
Yep.
refresher. So definitely a worthwhile investment, I think. Don't you think it just kind of helps launch you into the next step to really make you feel like, yes, I really can do this?
Oh, 100%. I feel like when I started, I was going down these Google rabbit holes,
Yes.
of how to
Yes.
launch an LLC. And then you go through all these. Do I need to go through law trades? Do I need to, like, what's my city's website? You get lost and overwhelmed and kind of feel like you want to give up. Yeah, it definitely
Right.
provides you some direction and structure.
So then you're going through that, and that's helping you with the guidance of moving forward, because I can imagine that building your business is not just building the hats and the products, the physical products, but you have to build the website to sell them. You have to have the sales platform on your website. You have to have your social media. You have to have all your marketing set. So there's a lot of elements in forming a business. So talk to me about where you are in the process and how it was to actually put all these moving pieces together.
Going into it, I did not want to invest a whole ton of money. That was definitely a roadblock. It's like, I don't want to plunk down thousands of dollars and it doesn't work out, right? That was part of it. Part of wanting to start something like this is to stay engaged, as a professional, because I was afraid of stepping away from my career, focusing more on family, but then losing skills. And as we all know, things are changing so quickly these days. So I thought, for one, I want to be a lean startup, so to speak, and two, I want to learn all these things along the way. And if there's something that's clearly not my strong suit, I could maybe look to, there's so many platforms out there these days. You can hire people to do things if you really are struggling with it. But I tried to do everything myself. I made my own logo in the beginning. I built my own website. I do my own marketing. I made my own patterns. I can't manufacture that
Right.
myself. So I did find an awesome manufacturer an hour away from me. And it was actually important to me to be able to, be there in person and meet everyone who will be making them and really understand like what's going into this. How does this process work? Because I want to learn. It's important to me that that's part of the journey as well. So who knows, as things go, there might be things that I need help with that are just like dragging me down, and I can evaluate it then. But I've liked, learning things as I go.
That's so interesting about the manufacturer because you hear so many times that people outsource to other countries. So was it important for you to keep it here in the States nearby?
It was, and mainly just for the reason I mentioned of being able to pop in or to check it out, because I have no background in manufacturing or production of any kind or fashion. It was just important to me to be able to be there because I felt like there's so many things that could go wrong. So my guilty pleasure every evening is watching Shark Tank, right?
Me too, right
Oh,
before
really?
bed. Yes. Love it.
Oh, that's so funny. You and I, have a very similar, like I was
Yes.
saying earlier, you're a podcaster, a business owner, a career coach, a mom, a TV producer, right? So, just
We have
interested in
many roles
many,
we play.
many hats. Yeah. So I love hearing other people's stories. In Shark Tank, you always hear the people who do manufacture offshore. The ones who tend to be successful are the ones who go like live there for a while, actually visit, the factories and all that. Otherwise, it's easier for mistakes to happen and miscommunication and things like that.
Yeah, you can't do that with 3 kids and a husband. You
No,
can't just go.
yeah.
Where do you live?
I'm in Massachusetts, right outside of Boston.
So that's so nice to be able to have something within an hour's drive that you can go to and check it out.
I worked with a pattern maker who was actually on site at the factory. She kind of served as a bit of a liaison. I kind of already had it from making all the iterations myself. So she created one and it looks just like the one I did, which I wasn't sure if that was good or bad, but I'm like, do you want to change anything?
She liked it. She thought it was ready to go.
Hopefully that's why. But then once I approved her sample, I basically submitted a purchase order and I did it in 5 different colors and they're set to ship to me. I'm excited to see how the whole back end works. I have done like onesie twosie, like Etsy, because I was hand making them for a while. So I experimented, like, how does this work when you get an order, how do you print a label and so I played around with that a little bit. I'm excited. It's like a hurry up and wait type of situation, but I've been playing around with Instagram again, playing around, right? It's just like kind of trial and error, trying stuff out. It's funny because when I went to business school and learned about marketing, I took one class on social media and it was essentially like how to create a tweet, that was in, 2015.
Wow.
And in marketing, everything has changed since then. So I'm like creating reels in, the attic, but even that, even though it's a learning curve for sure, it is, something you can have fun with.
Don't you feel like you have to be involved on those channels these days because that is the number one place, especially like Instagram or TikTok and Reels, where you can instantly see something and then click on it and purchase it right then? Like, it's kind of crazy.
It is crazy. And you're absolutely right. When I talk to other people in the program that I'm in or listen to modules, there's a lot of people who are saying, I'm an introvert. I don't want to be on Instagram, so what are my other options? And it's always kind of like, unfortunately, that's probably your best,
Yeah.
So
I'm going through that too because as a producer, I'm always behind the camera, but I realize that I need to start doing some TikToks and reels. And unfortunately, if it's my business, I have to kind of be in at least some of them and I have to figure it out. So I'm going through the same learning curve as you are. It's definitely a lot for us when we didn't grow up with that. It's all new and it's fun to learn and figure it out and experiment.
yeah, sometimes I push like, the post put button and I watch the numbers go up of people watching and like, oh my God, how many people have seen, but you do get used to it. You get, you build confidence and I at least tell myself, in the beginning, I'm like, do people, do they want to hear from me again? But what I kind of tell myself is like, if they don't, they'll keep scrolling,
Yep.
and that's the platform. You're not meant to be a product for everyone. You find your niche, and the people that are interested will stay interested, hopefully. And then, the ones who aren't, it's not for them. And
Yep.
that's okay. That's normal.
Or you might not be for them at that moment. Isn't it in marketing, you would know better than me, that you have to be in front of someone 7 times before they make a purchase?
I think you actually got that number right. Yeah.
It's so true because there's items that like will pop up that I'm like, oh, I could use that. And maybe I get it a month later. You're doing such a great job on Instagram. You're doing a great job of just getting your product out there and your business out there ahead of time so that when you launch, there's going to be followers that are ready to purchase right then and there because they've seen you already and they know you already. So you're on the right path.
Well, thank you for saying that. It's one of those things I learned from the program. I never would have thought to start marketing before you have a product. But, what we learned is like people want to see the process, like show them when you went to the factory and show them when your labels come in. And when I think about it, I like seeing that when the other business owners that I'm working with do that. I like to see that, the behind the scenes stuff and the stories that go with it and all that.
It's weird to kind of think that packing a package to go out into the mail would be exciting, but you're right. It makes the brand more personal. Nowadays, I think ever since COVID, people really want to support local business even more. So you might not have any interest in what I'm selling, but you're going to support me and vice versa. And I feel like you find yourself just helping each other out. It's a nice way for social media to kind of help you help others.
I agree. I love that. I love, I need a swimsuit for a vacation, and I know somebody that I'm working with that's worked so hard on this swimsuit, and I know where she got the material from Bali. And it's like, you feel like you're wearing a story. It's like, if anyone asks you about it, you're like, as a matter of fact, the factory where these are made, it's all, women and, or whatever. It has a story to it, which I always think is cool. It makes it a little more special.
One of your slogans, I think, for your company is wear many hats. That's a great story for your brand.
When I was home, that 6 months when I was just kind of like playing around after I left my job, I would pick up, 1 or 2 of my kids, never all 3 at the same time, but I'd pick a couple up from daycare and, go to the playground or whatever you do. I remember one day I was asking my daughter, what she wants to be when she grows up or whatever. And she said, a doctor, mommy, policewoman, queen. And it just like, she said it so seriously, but I laughed. And then I'm like, you know what? Like, why not? Why do we kind of give that message that kids or anyone for that matter needs to pick just one career? And your podcast is like super inspiring too, to hear that. Like people can go from being an actress to, a therapist or something just like completely different. You feel like it's a second chapter. Like you don't
have to pick just one. I feel like our parents' generation, it was that way where you get a job and you work at it until you're retired. But now, why not do it all? So your daughter can totally do that. And she's going to feel that much more fulfilled by the time she's ready to retire. Right. I checked all the boxes. I did everything I wanted to.
Right. Less stressed out or, what am I going to be, pressure. Try something out. And, you and I were talking before the podcast, like everything is figure outable. I think that's one of your favorite quotes. And I love that. Like, try not to be afraid of trying something new, but like take it day by day, take action. You can figure a lot of stuff out.
So what did you tell your daughter then?
I was like, you know what? That is awesome. I think you can do that. Go for it. The other thing I was going to mention around like that tagline, wear many hats, and that concept is My grandmother, who lived to be 94, when I asked her if she had any regrets in her life, it was not taking more risks. It's easy to look back, and say, oh, there's all these things that I could have done with my life, but they're risks. You sacrifice, like your stability or all these things that you get in a routine and comfortable with. That really stuck with me.
We're so similar. I agree. You want to look back and know that you tried. Because even if,
Mm-hmm.
you and I, if our businesses end tomorrow, we tried and we had fun trying and it was a learning process. I think it's important to be a lifelong learner and always try to grow yourself to be that better person and go outside of your comfort zone and leave that stability and try something new. By taking that leap, you're trying, and that's going to be one less regret you'll have to worry about when you're in your
Totally,
90s.
totally. You see all these quotes around Instagram and whatnot, and one of my favorite is, "I'd rather say I tried and failed than I never tried at all. At least I know that I
Yes.
tried and it didn't work out."
Yeah.
One of my mentors in the program I'm in said, "Perfection is the entrepreneur's curse." A lot of people, I think, are like, I have to know exactly what I'm going to do, and it has to be perfect before I make a leap or before I start something new. But like a lot of times it's just like trial and error. Just like try something out, and like if you're into it enough, you'll kind of keep going and answer questions along the way, and push
Right.
yourself.
You're an example of that too. What if you tried the drums and you said, I can do this, I'm going to join a band? That could have been your second act, you know?
That could have been.
Seriously, but you tried. And I feel like it's just important to try and see. Some of the clients I'm working with, I try to say, you can stay in your stable corporate job, but while you're there, find those nights and weekends, or ask your husband or your parents or your kids for 1 hour on the weekends to be your hour of exploration. I know we all feel that we have no time, and I'm right there to say, like, there are just not enough hours in the day. But we
Right,
can find those little times. You took advantage of when your kids were in daycare. And even though
right,
your husband probably hated you with those
right.
drums while he was working, you tested it out and it just helped you figure out your next step.
Yeah, yeah. I do think a lot of people worry that they have to, leave their job to start something new. And so many people in the program that I'm in anyway, most people are actually still working their full-time jobs and are working on their business on the side,
Right.
as like a passion project or a side hustle, whatever you want to call it. And you just never know what it could turn into. Sometimes doing that does take the pressure off a little bit. Time is always a limiting factor, especially like when you've got kids and mortgages and everything. Taking 1 hour and playing around with stuff, and you
Yeah.
just never know.
I like what you're saying about your program. For me, when I was trying to figure it out, when I left TV and I was just in a place in my 6 months of how you did it, I was trying to figure it out. I just said, well, I'm going to go to grad school. I was working as an office job at the time and I was taking classes at night. That was really expensive. And I didn't even finish the program because I ended up just buying my own franchise business. But that grad school program led me to where I needed to be. So it was worth it in that sense. But instead of going to get an MBA or go to a graduate school program that is a lot of money, maybe
Right.
doing a program like you did or some of the programs that I'm currently in where you're learning a skill that you're interested in.
Yeah.
And so you're taking a program that still might not be super inexpensive, but it's just a little bit so you can learn, do I like this? You could
Right.
have started
Right.
and realized, oh, this isn't for me.
Right. However you take action. And like you said, there's so many ways and so many platforms. That's one of the benefits of like technology, right? You don't have to go to a physical school anymore. A lot of these platforms have like trials even.
Yeah. How did you decide to just go full blown business rather than have an Etsy shop?
I talked to my mentor and I told her from the beginning, my goal with all this is to have a moderately successful Etsy shop. And she's like, why? Why not have your own brand and then also sell on Etsy? She had to go into that reasoning like you don't collect email addresses on the Etsy platform. You don't really have your own brand. You're sort of like a vendor on their platform. So I think my goal has shifted a little bit. I'd like to have my own brand, my own website. And then, there's places like Etsy. There's also, I've learned about all these other kind of wholesale platforms, almost like farmers markets, but online. There's a lot of really cool opportunities out there right now, wholesale opportunities and otherwise that's, a little bit less limiting, maybe.
How do you think having the manufacturer and kind of stepping back from actually hand making your items is going to help your business? Because now you can actually work on the business instead of in the business.
100%. When I was just playing around with the Etsy thing. If an order came in, I'd have to sit down at my sewing machine and crank it out, takes about an hour or whatever. But I just pre-sold 50 hats to a wedding. Someone who wants to have the hats like at the tennis event before their wedding as kind of like a giveaway to all the guests, which is awesome.
So cute.
But I never would have been able to do that if it was, on Etsy or if I was hand making them. So I think having a factory produce them just like opens up possibilities for larger orders like that or wholesale orders. My hats are held together. They roll up. That's kind of one of the, what I think one of the best features of them. They roll up and then you hold them together with a slap bracelet. The slap bracelet you can customize. So for this wedding, I'm putting the bride and groom's name and like a little, like the perfect match, if it's for the tennis.
Oh, what a great idea.
So it's just like, it opens up again, those possibilities or opportunities that are, bigger than, might otherwise be if you were making them by hand.
Right. You wouldn't have the time to really think about these other marketing opportunities. And
Right.
That's going to be so great because now if you get another big order, you're just talking to your manufacturer. Okay, I need X amount.
Right. I do like to sew, but, marketing is what I went to school for. So I'd love to kind of focus on that. If I were to expand and make another product or whatever, I have like fanny packs in my mind somewhere.
Yes.
I might get back on the sewing machine again, when I have time and play around again.
So tell me about the product then. So you said it rolls up. Kind of describe the ideal customer for your hat and why this hat is so different than others that might be out there.
So my hats are basically, if you think about like the retro or 80s visor,
Yes,
it's kind of like a take on that. They're ideal for people who are active people, right? So they're fun, lightweight, rollable sun hats for active people, whether you're, going out for a jog or chasing your kids around at the park or playing tennis or at the beach. It doesn't block your vision if you're playing tennis or whatever. Actually, the material is not PVC, which is what the retro 80s visors that you think of are made out of. It's made of something called TPU, thermoplastic polyurethane, which is 100% biodegradable, recyclable, non-toxic, so much better for the environment, which was appealing to me. They roll up pretty tightly, kind of go like this. I do some demos on my Instagram site. You can roll them up, and then again, you take the slap bracelet, pop it on, and then you can tuck the little hat then into your, your pocket or your bag. And that was for me, as a mom, very important, something that you could just, toss in like a small space or toss one in your car, toss one in your diaper bag, kind of have them all over. Many hats.
Many hats, yeah. Will you be having them in children's sizes? Is that something that might be down the road?
Maybe. I've gotten that question before. My kids wear them around for fun now. It's kind of a one size fits all.
Yeah.
So, I guess I would kind of see, do they wear it naturally? And should I kind of head that direction with it? Or I guess I can kind of see.
One of my best friends plays tennis. Actually, quite a few of my close friends are in the South, and tennis is so big down there that they play all the time. So I'm going to have to get a bunch for them.
Oh,
This
yeah.
will be great.
It's nice too, because especially in the warmer climates, a visor just keeps you so much cooler.
Yes.
Like a regular baseball hat, which is what I used to wear before, is just like your head's hot, you take it off and your hair's all sweaty.
I could have used this in Disney. I was in Disney World not too long ago, and my baseball hat, it was totally killing me. I had to take it off to let the air in, so this would have been great.
Yeah, you can wear a ponytail easily. And then there's also a French terry band that goes against your forehead, so it's super soft, comfortable, lightweight. So I don't know. I love it. I hope others do.
Yes. Was having it made kind of eco-friendly really important to you as well?
It was. I've learned a little bit about, fast fashion and how, there's no longer 4 seasons anymore. There's like 12 or whatever it is. The industry is constantly kind of pushing you or encouraging you to buy the next thing. And all these clothes are ending up in landfills. Never mind, the pollution and everything caused by actual manufacturing. So it was important to me to, again, like understand who is manufacturing these, make sure that all the materials are sourced properly and ethically and all that. I definitely think, if everyone does their little part, there can be big changes in that space.
I have a guest who she's so amazing. Her podcast will be out maybe a little bit later in the summer. Her name is Liz McDade, and she is the owner of No Trace Shop. And
Oh,
she is all about viable, safe fashion like that. She educates people on how to make their own bags and their own, I think she calls them beeswax wraps and just
wow.
different things. She teaches kids how to sew. I feel like I should connect the two of you because you'll have a great
Yes,
conversation.
absolutely. I
Um,
just jotted her name down. That
yeah.
would be awesome.
How do your kids and your husband feel about this new venture that mommy's taking?
My husband's always been supportive. His general feeling is as long as you're happy. So he can tell that this is making me happy.
Mhm.
He's all in, which I'm lucky.
You're very lucky. It's not
Yeah.
always that way.
No, I think my kids, they're so young. They're 2, 4, and 6. So, I think they go into school and they're like, my mommy makes hats, and their teachers are like, so what do you do?
Aw.
They're like, she's in the living room making hats. So I don't know. I think they're trying to like figure out exactly what's what, but I feel like that's usually the case with kids that age.
They're just happy to have you home. And think about it. You're going to be home with them. Like, how
Oh,
amazing is that?
yeah. And I mean, that was, if I haven't said it already, that was a huge motivator for me. I feel like the third pushed me over the edge a little bit in terms of trying to balance everything. So having that flexibility to be able to help them with things and be around for stuff has been for me really, really awesome.
Yeah. What lessons have you learned from making this career shift?
I guess don't be afraid to try something totally different. You can teach an old dog new tricks.
Hmm.
My dad, for example, he is a banker, he's a musician, he makes his own maple syrup. He most recently a competitive pole vaulter.
What?
So
Wow.
it's like just kind of like you're never too old. Give something new a try.
I always like to ask my guests about the thread between the different chapters in their life.
That's a good question. I think what I would say is I've always been action oriented. Maybe sometimes to a fault, just like dive into something and try it. And, maybe it's not perfect at first or you don't get it right at first, but like always kind of like active. So trying something, if it doesn't work, try something else. These hats are, fun rollable sun hats for active people. So
There you go.
find that how you will, I guess.
That's a perfect thread. I love it. What is your favorite part about being an entrepreneur?
Um, honestly, having the space to try new things. I guess being your own boss, right? You have the space to like, today, do I want to work on creating a line sheet for wholesale orders, or today do I want to work on Instagram reels, or today do I want to go pick up my kid and take her to the playground? For this stage in my life, that is just amazing.
It really is. Do you ever try to block your days and say, on Thursday, I'm going to concentrate on this? How do you kind of schedule your week out?
Well, I love how the program I'm in has a calendar. So they have, co-working sessions on these days and meet with your mentor on this day, and then a master class, on another day. So they kind of give you a schedule, which I thought, especially in the beginning, was really helpful because you look at this, this stretch of hours that you have, and you have all these things in your head that you want to or think you should do, but they're not the meetings that your boss is putting on like you might have had it at another job. So you kind of have to discipline yourself and figure out what works for you. But yeah, I kind of use the structure of the program as a baseline and then kind of plug things in around that.
Do you turn things off at dinner time? Are you one of those entrepreneur moms that just say, okay, after this hour, I'm not going to look at my emails?
So I have made myself put my phone down like when the kids get home, because I found myself, especially when I was like super excited in the beginning, I'm on different, platforms trying to like source materials, and the kids are asking me questions and I'm getting annoyed because they're asking me. And then I'm like, what am I doing? This is the 2 hours that I have with them, until they're asleep. So it's hard. I think everyone, whether you're starting a new business or not, has that challenge these days. So that's a personal goal of mine, is try to turn off, and you can decide when that is.
It's a struggle I am facing myself. My kids are 7 and 10, and I'll find that they will be on their iPads. And now we're all sitting on the couch and they're on their iPads and no one's talking to me. So I'm like, okay, I'll get my laptop. But then we're all sitting there not talking to each other. You kind of have to try slowly, I guess, to prioritize each other and no screens.
That's actually a really good point. I've said this to myself before is I want to try to set a good example. And
Yes.
what does it mean when they're saying, Mom, can I have a show? And I'm like, no, you already had your hour of show. And then I'm sitting there on my phone scrolling Instagram reels like, no.
Yes.
So
I
that,
know.
that helps me.
That's a good point. It becomes addicting after a while. And then you're
Oh,
like, but this is for business. But
yes. But I need to see what reels are trending right now.
right, I know.
And then like 20 minutes goes by.
Yep.
So,
Oh,
yes.
gosh. So what are you most looking forward to on launch day?
You know, that feeling of everything you've worked so hard for. You're putting pieces together behind the scenes, your website, your copyright, your blog post, the actual products, right? So just kind of like seeing it all come together and being able to like launch and say, here it is, and like have something to show for it all.
Yeah.
And then, you know, on top of that, like just seeing what people think. Right now it's me wearing the samples around a bunch, but like I can't wait for other people to be able to try them out and, you know, give me feedback and all that.
Yeah.
That'll feel, you know, feel good to have it to cross that, you know, that line.
Yeah. All right, it's time for our 5 fast cues of the week. Here we go. Name one thing that these different chapters in your life have taught you.
So I think back to that idea of take action day by day, join a network, like join a community of people, like talk to people, listen to podcasts, right? Listen to other people. And I know you felt this way. You listened to like a ton of different podcasts to hear what others' experiences were and like the challenges they faced. I think that's really inspiring and can teach you a lot.
Would you recommend taking a leap into a big life change to your best friend?
I definitely would. And like I've said a couple of times, like I don't think it means you need to necessarily like quit your job out of nowhere like I kind of did. Try things out on the side, see what really like lights you up. And of course, if you get to a point where you're just like, you know, what I'm doing now doesn't do it for me anymore, and I found this other thing that I'm super excited about, you know, as my grandmother would have said, like, you know, go for it.
What is one piece of advice that you can give someone who's about to start their second act today?
Find a network, find a platform, find some coworkers, find that podcast that gets you motivated, and then take action. Like take the first step and the next day take the second step, and you could take it at your own pace. Everybody's pace is different. And if you have a lot too much going on, like just take it really slow. There's no rush. It's your own timeline, you know.
So what does the next chapter look like for you?
I want to continue to learn and grow as a person. I hope not only that I can, you know, make something that other people enjoy and love, but I also hope to inspire other people to wear many hats, so to speak. This has been so life-changing for me. I want to somehow have an impact or an influence and encourage others to, you know, not to settle and to try new things. And my kids too. I want to try to set an example for my kids on that front.
Where can our audience connect with you?
Right now, I'm on Instagram. It's at Farrell, my name, Farrell and Co. And yeah, you can see little demos of my sample hats and a couple quotes that I have found inspiring. And more than that, my DMs are always open. So if people are starting their own, you know, venture or just have like a passion they're interested about and just kind of don't know where to get started, I'm no expert, but I love chatting about this. Us doing this as an example, I love talking about it, and I'm happy to chat with anyone.
I just love chatting with you and learning about your journey. And I'm so excited for your brand to launch in just the next week or so. And I'll be following and purchasing and supporting you all throughout the way.
Thank you, Shannon. I will be listening to you. I'm going to continue to, you know, hear some different inspiring stories to keep me motivated and following you as well. So thank you. Thanks again for having me.
It's been a great conversation. Thank you. Wow, Farrell has really done a great job of creating a life that she can be proud of. You can check out her line of activewear hats at farrellandcobrand.com. Be sure to follow Farrell and support her and this amazing business she is building. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for joining us. I hope you found some gems of inspiration and some takeaways to help you on your path to second act success. To view show notes from this episode, recommend a guest with a great story, and learn more about us, visit secondactsuccess.co. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And if you're enjoying our time together, please leave a review in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Reviews only take a few moments, and they really do mean so much. Thank you again for listening. I'm Shannon Russell, and this is Second Act Success.